So for our first lesson for Falling For You, I thought that I would play around with stencils because they've been something that I've been having a lot of fun with lately, and I wanted to share that with you. So first I thought I'd show you some of the different stencils that I have, what you can get. This is for tracing letters. I got it in the school supply section at Ocean State Job Lot for $1. There were a couple different sizes, but I don't know where they are right now. So I have that one. These, not really sure where they came from, but they are see-through stencils. I have seen these at Michael's in like the art supply section. I don't think I bought them there though. I don't know where they came from. One thing that's kind of cool about these, they're really flexible, which is something I don't like that much, but one thing that is cool is that when they're new, the letters, if you can see that, the letters are there, so you could pop this out and use it as a mask. So you kind of get like double duty. In fact, I think that if I were to buy these again, I would definitely make sure I saved these letters and use them because they're pretty cool. Then these are from Plaid, and they are an assortment. I think that they came all together in a set, and they are like sea creatures. I took these when I was taking Susie Blue's mermaid class, La Serena. I didn't really use them that much, but I think they're kind of cool. So there's those. My favorites are from the Crafters Workshop, and they have an awesome selection. These are a little bit heavier than the first alphabet blue ones that I showed you, and they come in 12 by 12, which this is the big one, and then they also come in a smaller size, which is like this, which is 6 by 6. And these are made primarily like for scrapbookers, but I have found a lot of different ways to use them, which I'm going to share with you. So there's this one. I really like using this one a lot. These are from Julie Fefan Bazar, and I love these. These are super fun. This is her Punchinella set. There are the stars, there's like the beehive look, and then there's just like Punchinella, which I have some Punchinella right here. This is Punchinella, also known as sequin waste, and it is the leftovers from the process of making sequins, which is now sold to crafters like me. I bought this at Right at Home Scrapbooking, which is in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. If you're not local, I'm sure that you can find this somewhere. It's sequin waste. It's known as Punchinella. I once bought a giant roll of it at Pat Catan's, so if you have a store like that near you, I found a giant roll of it there. It's usually sold by the foot. You can buy it on Etsy, but it's fun. I'm going to show you how to use this soon. Here's another, while we're on the Punchinella kick. This is another one that I just bought, and it has these little square grids. I've never seen this before, so I was pretty excited to find it. I also got this at the Right at Home Scrapbooking place. Then here are some more from Julie Balzar, and this is, the packaging is super cute. This is a new one that I haven't even used yet. So I love how you have like her designs at the top, and then there are some examples of her work at the back, and these make me happy. And they're very fun. She's an awesome blogger. We're going to learn more about her later this week. So this is the rain, this is the fragment and flower, and you'll see in some of my artwork that I use this a lot. These are different styles of rain, and if you look, this is exactly the same as this, but this is bigger. But it's cool, like when you order a smaller one, you're getting a smaller scale of the same design, so you can use them together, use them separately. Then we have the herringbone, also brand new, I haven't used yet. This is the chevron, which I think is really cool. This is also Julie's, which is the triangles here. And then we have circles, which I don't think this is Julie's, but this is still from the Crafters Workshop. Crafters Workshop ones I really like a lot. You can find those in a lot of scrapbooking stores, and there's also some places online that sell them. Okay, so of the dirty dozen, number 1 is to use sprays. And I'm going to use this template. This is my little test journal that I am just starting specifically for this class, which is pretty cool. So, You can tape you could tape this, probably painter's tape would work better, the blue kind. You could tape it into place if you want. I tend to just hold it because I don't feel like taping and untaping. It's really up to you what's going to work best for you. So a couple different things you can try. This is a homemade Sharpie alcohol ink spray, which if you search on the Art Journaling Network, there's videos on how to do it already. I will try to post a link whenever I put this video up. So just hold it into place. This is going to make your hands messy. Whatever, it'll wash off. You don't want to get it too wet, and if it feels like it might be a little too wet, maybe dab it up a bit before you pull it up. If you get it too wet, it's going to leak underneath. So, there is the first. Hopefully you can see that okay. So that's the alcohol ink. And I'm just going to do this in the same place. This is just a spray made from acrylic paint and water, and if you check out my Craft Cleanse course also on the Art Journaling Network, you will see instructions on how to make this. Same thing, light spray, don't get it too wet, and pull it up. And so you can see that different mediums are going to give you different looks. That's why I definitely encourage you to kind of play with them. So this one kind of has more of a smudgy effect, whereas this one has a little bit of a smoother line. Either way, they still look cool. This is Adirondack Color Wash. This is a new thing for me. It's very bright, but it's the same thing. It's like a spray colorant. So same thing. I'm going to hold it in place. Whoa, that gives you a lot of wet. So there's something else you can do with the stencils too whenever it is really wet like that. See, that one bled a lot. If you flip it and then just kind of push down on it, you could brayer this if you wanted to. It'll give you the reverse impression, which is kind of cool. It depends on how messy you like to be. If you don't like to be messy, spraying your stencils might not be the best method, but if you are okay with messy, this could be fun. Another cool thing about the color wash, which I'm sure we'll explore this more, but if you spray it, it is water soluble, so you can get like a really messy paint effect with that. And I like it. You could, if you wanted to, you could block off part of the design. So I'll try this over here. And now what I'm going to spray with this time, I just made this, I don't know if it's going to work. I had a pan pastel that broke, which we'll talk more about that in another technique later on. And trying to fix it, I decided to make a spray out of it. Alright, that looks like it's going to work. So now I have a straight line of dots. Pretty cool. They're fun. I try to wipe the stencils as I use them, and then when I'm done working, I'll wash these just in a sink with some soapy water and just kind of rub it with my hands on both sides. You probably don't really have to wash it, but if you're using something like the purple that I use that is the water soluble, you definitely want to get that off of there, or else you're going to find purple on the next project that you do. So on to the next. Okay, so for our next technique, I'm using pan pastels. If you don't have pan pastels, you can also try this using just regular chalk pastels, or even oil pastels. And they're all going to do different things. I really like the pan pastels because they have a fixative so that they don't smear and rub away, and I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. And they're fun. This is the soft tool that you can buy to use with the pan pastels, but really like a makeup brush would work, or like a sponge or something, so that you might not necessarily need to have that. You don't want to use your fingers though, because I guess the oils from your fingers can mess up the pan pastel. At least I assume that that's why. But so same thing, you're gonna hold it into place, and to pick up the pan pastel, I have one side is for white, or one side is for the black, one side is white. But you're just going to rub it very gently, like you barely need to touch it, and you'll get a lot of color on there. And this is a neater look for if you really don't like messy, then this will probably appeal to you more than the sprays will. At least the pan pastels are less messy. Alright, it's easy to get carried away, but it gives you a much cleaner look. You can kind of blow away the extra. Another thing you can do is kind of layer the colors a little bit. So I was going to try it with white and see what that did for the look. Obviously, if you were doing this on a painted background, it would be a more dramatic look, but I was going to just try it anyway. I think it's going to give me a bit of a shadow thing. And you can see it's kind of blending. I don't know how well you can see it, but the black that I already put down is blending with the white. And then I'm going to just clean off my little thingy by rubbing it on here a little bit. So you can see it's like a more dimensional look. If you layer different colors, that could be really cool. If you don't want the colors to blend, you could stop, spray workable fixative over your page, and then add more color, and it won't blend as much. And the colors are transparent, as you can kind of see here, so you can keep building up the layers without it getting muddy. You could also try something where trying to make sure it's not. So I'm just filling this little area with color. And now, using my stencil to clean off the thing and just rub it a little bit. Get rid of, though I usually rotate it and find a new spot. Now I'm going to try it with yellow. And I'm just going to go on top. And the cool thing about the pan pastels is how nicely they blend together. I could add more, but I'm going to leave it like that. And you can see how the color just layered. Alright. So, pan pastels. If you don't have pan pastels... Oh wait, before I do that. This is a page where I used the fragmented flower. You have already seen this page, but here I did the flower and I outlined on the outside edge. For this side, I outlined just slightly inside. So you can kind of change the look of, and this is pan pastel, you can change the look based on what you do to it afterwards. I also have a few different canvases that I have made using pan pastels and stencils. So this one, you saw the circular one. And one thing, you don't have to use the whole stencil, you could just use a little chunk. So here I use like 4 layers instead of the whole circle. And this is pan pastel on top of the canvas. The cool thing about the pan pastel, I have not found anything that it doesn't work on yet, which is awesome. Here's another canvas. This time I felt like it was a little dark in the middle and I wanted to brighten it up a bit, so what I did was I used the triangle stencil, white pan pastels, and just added a little bit of detailing. And then for this one, you can see here, this is the whole piece. I love this. I'm still working on this. It's not done yet. But what I did was I used the Punchinella and the pan pastel, and I used black and white, so it kind of blended together and gave me like gradient of gray. I did it up along the edges here too. So I really love how that looks. But if you don't have pan pastel, my friend and I discovered the other day that chalk pastels will work. So we're gonna work over here now. Just gonna grab, this is just a piece of chalk pastels. This is a cheapo box from Michael's, didn't cost very much. So you can just do it really quick and just like let it go where it goes. And so you lose a lot of it. It would actually work better on maybe a painted surface or a gessoed surface. This is just plain paper, so it's not really holding it very well, but you could also try to be more neat about it. Put a little bit on, rub it around with your finger. This is kind of a messy one, so if you're not a messy person, you're not gonna like this one. Maybe you'll learn to like being messy. I have a tendency, I really want my pages to be super neat, but I am learning that I have more fun when I don't worry about it. After a while, it just gets on your fingers, so I guess you could just keep going like that. So you have like the smudgy, chalky look. So same thing. The difference though between using pan pastels and using the chalk is that if I find a sort of, look how messy my hands are. If I use a sort of clean finger over here, I can smear it a bit, but not that much. Here, I can almost like get rid of it. But if I kept rubbing over there, I'm not gonna get it any more gone than what I did there. But here, like, you can get rid of it. That might be an effect that you can use to your advantage. Though if you use the chalk pastel, you're gonna wanna fix it in some way, like a workable fixative spray, or something else. We'll talk more about pastels in a future lesson. And another thing that I thought would be cool, I haven't actually tried this yet, so we are now experimenting together. And I'm going to use black. These are oil pastels. I've had these things for years. I hardly ever use them because I never really know what to do with them, so I thought that this would be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to just, like, you could just go around the edge, that's kind of cool, just like that, or do smear it again with your fingers to get a nice looking, because it depends on what look you want. Either way, I think that's kind of cool. And then the cool thing about the oil pastels then, again, I'm experimenting. This is a spray made from watercolor paint from a tube mixed with water, and I'm pretty sure that the oil pastel is going to resist this. Yeah, it totally does. And so, I don't know, maybe that's not the best example of what it's going to do, but like how it pulled up on top of here, that's going to go away. It's not going to stay there. So you could like maybe play with that to your advantage. It would actually probably be better if you were actually maybe trying to paint with watercolors instead of using a spray, but you get the general idea. So there's a couple more techniques for you. And on to the next page. So I wanted to show you, before we move on to the next technique, what I have been doing. This is kind of, I'm exploring techniques in this little journal, which we're actually going to learn how to make this little journal during this class, just as soon as I get that PDF finished. So what I'm doing is I'm writing little notes to myself, like what I did for each part, and I'm just, at the top I put stencils, so I mean obviously I was playing with stencils, but in case I forget or have a brain dead moment, and I just dated it. I don't know if the date really matters, but I thought it might be interesting to see like how it changed. So same thing, made little notes to myself. You could write like what you like about it, what you don't like, if you wanted to be more detailed. The other thing is like the pastels can kind of squish together. I don't really care. If you were making a page that you really loved and you did care, you definitely want to do some kind of fixative on top of that. But for this little journal, I didn't feel it was particularly necessary. So for the next spread. So the first thing that I did when I got the stencils was try to use acrylic paint, and I had a lot of trouble getting a good look. Like the acrylic paint likes to smudge underneath the stencil. It could be that I've just been using like these cheapo craft paints, and I do have nice paints, but I just haven't bothered to pull them out, I guess. There's a couple different ways that I found that can be more successful than others. One thing that works okay, I think with this stencil will be good. If you have one with really fine lines, don't even try this because it's not going to work very well. But same thing, hold it in place, but this time we're going to put a little bit of paint up here. That's probably more than I needed, but whatever. And just the old credit card. The trick to getting this good is don't go over it too much. If it's imperfect, just leave it imperfect. If you go too much, it's going to start to leak under. It even started to leak there. So that's really not my favorite, but it could be like a cool look. And as I said, if you use thicker acrylic paint, I think you can get a much better impression. Another thing that I thought we could try, I keep seeing, this is like a little stencil brush thing. It's really tiny, but I think it'll work. And I was thinking that it might work better because it's going to let me control exactly where the paint goes. I'm not trying to be like super perfect about this. You could, of course, make sure that you're getting it just right. I always tell my middle school students that perfect is boring, so I try not to try to be perfect. So that gives you, it's kind of like a smudgy but kind of a cool look. So again, depends on what you want. That's just a little dauber. Martha Stewart makes her own brand if you really want. You could probably actually use this to make some cool little polka dots. But that has nothing to do with stencils. I'm just doing this to clean off the thing. Okay, that's enough of that. So the other option that I have been doing, if I can find my, baby wipes. I thought baby wipes might work good for this. Again, I'm just kind of experimenting. I don't use the acrylic paint super a lot with these because it gives me such troubles. But I'm trying to find like a good method that works well. So what I think might work is I'm just going to put a little paint onto my baby wipe, and now I'm going to hold this really well and I'm going to wipe it on. And I like how it really lightens the color. I like that. That's probably my favorite of the three. Like this one is so wet, like it's even super wet. I bet if I squish these pages together, it's probably going to be kind of cool actually, but yeah. And the color's cool at least. Kind of mushy. So if you're going to use paint, baby wipe might be your best bet. Or try a thicker paint. I think that'll work better. So on to the next page. So you probably figured out by now that you're going to get the best results from a drier medium, but that doesn't mean that a wet medium can't give you some kind of cool effects. So for the next technique, I'm using the Ranger Distress Stain from Tim Holtz, and this is, if you don't have it already, I like it. I don't really have it. I only have like one or two of the ink pads because I resisted them for as long as I could, but these things look so fun that I had to buy one. So it has like the little thingy on the top, and if you hold it into place, I just kind of move it around a bit. It's very wet, as you can see, but that actually gives, it's more like the impression of the stencil, but I still think it's a very cool thing. And then another thing that's kind of neat about these is that, again, like the Adirondack color washes, they're water soluble, so you can spray and let them get messy. So if you don't like your impression, spray a little water, grab your brush, pull the color around. This is a fun thing, but it's also a bad thing if you're adding more wet mediums, so definitely if you're going to do the distress, leave that to the end or protect it with something before you go too much further. But I like the washed out kind of look that it's giving me. I'm not sure if I do it on wet how that's going to impact it. Maybe not that much, but here's another one. This one is Mustard Seed. Try not to be too wet. Yeah, it smeared maybe a lot more than I would have liked. I'm gonna try this. I kind of like the ghost impression on that. Could also use Like here, maybe I want to get rid of some of that color. I think a baby white will get that up a little bit for me. So definitely not the technique you want to use if you want a clean impression from your stencil, but it's a pretty cool effect. Like, I like the way that it looks. Like, I think this would be a good background for continuing on, and you could add more water. You could also add water with a brush. Whenever it gets into the creases here, I try to get it out right away. You could like put masking tape or something, but I usually just don't bother. Anyway, this is kind of a technique that is fun to play with.